Hare Krishna, and please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Welcome to the narration of Ramā Ekādaśī from the Brahmā-vaivarta Purāṇa. So we shall start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ramā Ekādaśī from the Brahmā-vaivarta Purāṇa. Yudhishthira Maharaja said, O Janardana, O protector of all beings, what is the name of the Ekādaśī that comes during the dark fortnight of the month of Kartika, October-November? Please impart this sacred knowledge to me. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna then spoke as follows. O Lion among kings, please listen as I narrate to you. The Ekādaśī that occurs during the dark parts of the month of Kartika is called Ramā Ekādaśī. It is most auspicious, for it at once eradicates the greatest sins and awards one the passage to the spiritual abode. I shall now narrate to you its history and glories. There once lived a famous king of the name Mucukunda, who was friendly to Lord Indra, the king of the heavenly planets, as well as with Yamaraj, Varuna, and Vibhishana, the pious brother of the demon Ravana. Mucukunda always spoke the truth and constantly rendered devotional service to me. Because he ruled according to religious principles, there were no disturbances in his kingdom. Okay, now we have the mention here of King Mucukunda. So there is one famous Mucukunda in the Krishna book, which is the 10th canto of Śrīmad Bhagavatam, which is in relation to the king of the Yavana. Krishna did a pastime where he left the battlefield, and he was supposed to fight, and he left seemingly like a coward, and the king of the Yavana was chasing him, trying to catch him, and he was not managing to catch him even though he was running, while Krishna was simply walking. And he led him into a cave where actually a king named Mucukunda, I believe it should be the same, was sleeping. He was very, very tired because he had fought on behalf of the demigods for a very, very long time. And after, he was so powerful that he could fight with demigods. And actually he lived, I believe, if I'm not wrong, during the Satya Yoga. So in Satya Yoga, human beings were very, very tall and strong, much, much taller than what we are now. And so when Krishna entered the cave, the king of the Yavana saw this great personality sleeping, and he bewildered, he thought that it was Krishna, and Krishna's bewildering potency was acting, and he kicked King Mucukunda, And King Mucukunda got a boon from Kartikeya that, because he helped the demigods fight, he got that boon from Kartikeya, the commander of the demigods, one of the sons of Lord Shiva, that I just want to sleep. Please allow me to sleep as long as I can, and that I can burn to ashes with my mere glance whoever wakes me up. So that was his boon. You can just imagine how tired he was, that he wanted to just sleep it off and kill anybody who wake him up. So it so happened like this, that this king of the Yavana kicked him, and then as soon as he woke up, he burned him, with his very glance. And of course, this is all transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. It was actually to bestow blessings upon his devotee, so that Krishna arranged that. And then the Lord revealed his four-armed form to King Mucukunda. And when King Mucukunda came out of his cave, he saw that people had become, very, very small. The trees had become smaller. Everything had become smaller. And that, mind you, that's 5,000 years ago in Dwapara Yoga, where people were still much taller than now. It is said, I think the Arjuna was something like 10, 12 feet, while Bhima was 15 feet. So they were very, very tall people, and still King Mucukunda saw them as puny people. So after that, he understood that this is the Kali age, and he headed up north. So I hope this is a story about King Mucukunda. That would be very nice. So okay, so he was, and he was friend with many demigods, Indra, Yamaraj, Varuna, Vibhishana also. Okay, so because he ruled according to religious principles, there was no disturbances in his kingdom. We continue. Mucukunda's daughter was named Candrabhāgā. after a sacred river. And the king gave her in marriage to Śobhana, the son of Chandrasena. One day, Śobhana visited his father-in-law's palace on the auspicious Ekādaśī day. This visit made by Śobhana's wife, Candrabhāgā, quite anxious. This visit made Śobhana's wife, Candrabhāgā, quite anxious, for she knew that her husband was physically very weak and unable to bear the austerity of a day-long fast. She said to him, "My father is very strict about following Ekādaśī. On Dashami, the day before Ekādaśī, he strikes a large kettle drum and announces, 'Nobody should eat on Ekādaśī, the sacred day of Sri Hari.'" Just see how pious he was. He made sure that all the citizens would follow Ekādaśī also. This is that is actually how a real leader should be. He should make sure that all his citizens are engaged in progressive way of life. This is the Arya Dharma, Varnashram Dharma, where everybody, no matter which social position, which ashram he's in, he must continue to advance spiritually. Concerning this, this is Śrīmad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, chapter 21, text 24. Any king who does not teach his citizens about their respective duties in terms of varna and ashrama, but who simply exacts tolls and taxes from them, is liable to suffer for the impious activities which have been performed by the citizens. In addition to such degradation, the king also loses his own fortune. So just see, now, who is actually teaching the citizens about Varna and Ashram Dharma? No one. No one cares for that. They separate Varnashram, or religious life, from sociology, politics, education. Religion should be amalgamated into all of these. Purport. A king, governor, or president should not take the opportunity to occupy his post without also discharging his duty. He must teach the people within the state how to observe the divisions of Varna and Ashrama. If a king neglects to give such instructions and is simply satisfied with levying taxes, then those who share in the collection, namely all the governments, servants, and the head of the state, are liable to share the impious activities of the general masses. Just see. So whichever country we have now on the planet, every single person that is in the government, any single state, senator, or province, head, they must take a part of the impiety performed by everyone in the country. Just imagine how much impiety is being done at the moment. So practically speaking, all the government people on the planet at the moment are going to hell. This is the strict laws of nature. Here, the laws of nature are very subtle. For example, if one eats in a place which is very sinful, he shares in the resultant reaction of the sinful activities performed there. Just see. Sometimes some devotees, they think, I'm going to go eat something vegetarian in a restaurant. No, that you share the resultant reaction of the sin. And not only that, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that anybody who eats for his own sense gratification eats only sin. So it doesn't become prasadam because you pray, "Oh, thank you, my Lord," or Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. No, Krishna wants love. He's not a purifying agent, It's not that you buy something outside, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, you pass it into the sin-removing machine, Krishna is a sin-removing machine, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, It doesn't work like this, We shouldn't think like that. So, you see, if you eat there, finish. I knew some devotees that were in China before. They used to go eat in Buddhist restaurant very often. That is not standard. Prabhupada never authorized that. He said actually even airplanes food and hotels food we should not take. Then it is the Vedic system, therefore, for a householder to call Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to eat in a ceremonial performances in his house, because the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas can immunize him from sinful activities. Anyway. So this is, one time the devotees were with Prabhupada in a car, and there was a car, and then there was a meat truck behind. And the car, let the meat truck pass him. And Prabhupada said that man driving that car, simply because he let the meat truck pass, he's got some sin. So just see how subtle it is. I remember even seeing in one of the Puranas, At one point, I think I was studying at that time to make a Dr. Zakir Naik video, and I read that if you walk next to someone, you will share some of his sins. If you breathe the air that has been breathed out from someone, just sometimes when we smell someone's mouth stinks, that means you breathed the air that was in him. You inhale his sin. You see, if you touch, simply touching, you take the sin also. So that's why before there was strict separation of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras. For example, there were some Chandalas, outcasts, right? It's so that they don't come and pollute the people who are more purified, just like now, if someone is in COVID, he's got COVID, he has to be put in quarantine. It's not that we degrade him. It's just that this is for the best of everyone else, and him also. Because if he contaminates others, then he's going to be getting more sins also, and so that's why it's very subtle. So we have to be very careful. So yes, a king who does not help all his citizens advance in Varna to their respective duties, according to 4 Varnas, 4 ashrama, he takes a portion of the sins. Okay. This is Bhagavatam 6.2.4. The mass of people follow the example of a leader in society and imitate his behavior. They accept as evidence whatever the leaders accept. That's a fact. If the leaders became devotees, practically everybody on the planet would become devotee, especially like here in China. They really follow the leader. Whatever the leader says, they think it's gold, one verse before that, 6.2.3. A king or government official should be so well qualified that he acts as a father, maintainer, and protector of the citizens because of affection and love, not because of greed and lust and exploitation. And he should give the citizens good advice and instructions according to the standard scriptures, and should be equal to everyone. Yamaraj does this, for he is the supreme master of justice, and so do those who follow in his footsteps. However, if such persons become polluted and exhibit partiality by punishing an innocent, blameless person, where will the citizens go to take shelter for their maintenance and security? Okay, there's many verses on this topic, but my point is this, the point is that this king Mucukunda was very pious, and he made sure that his citizens would follow Ekādaśī. It's just so much, we've read so many Ekādaśī stories, maybe some of you who've been following a few of those narrations, how much good there is by following Ekādaśī. So to have his citizens follow Ekādaśī is wonderful. Prabhupada says from the age of 8 years old, children can start following Ekādaśī. Okay, now, so he used to beat a big kettle drum to announce, and then tomorrow nobody should eat on Ekādaśī. Okay, then when Śobhana heard the sound of the kettle drum, he said to his wife, "O beautiful one, what am I to do now? Please tell me how I can save my life and obey your father's strictness, and at the same time satisfy our guests." So he was going on the invitation of King Mucukunda, Śobhana, and his wife, who Candrabhāgā. What? So both of them were going to his father's place. Now Ekādaśī is coming, and he's very weak. He's got very weak health. Those who are very weak in health, actually, there's some exceptions for them. Let's see what happens. Candrabhāgā then spoke, "My dear husband, in my father's house, nobody, not even the elephants or horses, what to speak of consenting human beings, eats on Ekādaśī. Indeed, none of the animals are given their ration of grains, leaves, or straw, or even water on Ekādaśī, the sacred day of Shrihari. So how can you escape fasting, my beloved husband? If you must eat something, then you should leave here at once. Now, with firm conviction, decide on what you have to do." Well, just see how the king was strict. No animals were even giving grains or water. So I guess he would not be doing something reckless. He would not be doing something that is against Shastra. And this incident would not be mentioned if it was not bona fide. So I guess that even animals get benefited if they don't eat on Ekādaśī. Okay, let's continue. Prince Śobhana then said, "I have decided to fast on the sacred Ekādaśī day. Whatever my fate is, it will surely come to pass." So he surrendered. Deciding thus, Śobhana attempted to fast on this Ekādaśī, but he became unbearably disturbed with excessive hunger and thirst. Eventually, the sun set in the west, and the arrival of the auspicious night made all the Vaishnavas very happy. O Yudhishthira, all the devotees enjoyed worshipping Lord Hari and remaining awake all through night. But Prince Śobhana that night became absolutely unbearable. Indeed, when the sun rose on Dwadasi, the Prince Śobhana was dead. So he was very, very weak of health. That only one day fasting actually took his life. Of course, his name is mentioned in the Brahmā-vaivarta Purāṇa, so how unfortunate can he be actually? But this is, all arrangements for us to learn. So this seems to be actually a tradition that goes, millions of years, that Vaishnavas used to remain awake all night and just glorify the Lord. Actually, finally, last Ekādaśī, I did a nirjal fast, no water, no food, and I did remain awake all night, chanting and reading. It was really, really hard austerity, because for those of you who've listened to last Ekādaśī, it said that if one observes it very strictly, he can liberate 10 past generation of his family, 10 past generation of his wife's family, 10 past generation, on his father's side and mother's side, and wife's family. So when I saw that, I thought, let me try, And so whole night I was awake here in the temple room, actually chanting and reading. And then I did Mangal Arti, And so they used to do all this. You see, they used to fast completely and then stay awake all night. So then Prince Śobhana left his body. King Mucukunda observed his son-in-law's funeral, ordering a large stack of wood be assembled for the fire. But he instructed his daughter, Candrabhāgā, not to join her husband on the funeral pyre. Thus, Candrabhāgā, after performing all the purificatory processes and procedures for honoring her deceased husband, continued to live in her father's house. So yes, the process before was that the wife was so pious and pure and faithful that she would simply follow the husband wherever he was going. So that required basically burning her material body. That specific material body, that gross body, and go wherever the husband goes. Generally, that means heaven, right? So they would go to heaven, or if he had attained liberation, she would also attain liberation. So this of course, practically speaking, there's no such chastity existing anymore. No woman would be so attached to the husband that they will ascend. Maybe there's still some in India, very, very extremely chaste wives, but that requires unflinching faith and complete dedication. So, but she was ordered by the father not to do so she could not disobey the father. Lord Krishna continued, O best of the kings, Yudhishthira, even though Śobhana died because of observing Ramā Ekādaśī, the merit that he accrued enabled him, after his death, to become the ruler of a kingdom high on the peak of Mandarachala mountain. This kingdom was like a city of the demigods, very lustrous, with unlimited jewels set in the walls of its buildings that gave off light. The pillars were made of rubies, and gold inlaid with diamonds shone everywhere. As King Śobhana sat upon a throne beneath a pure white canopy, servants fanned him with yak-tailed whisk. A stunning crown rested on his head. Beautiful earrings adored his ears. A necklace graced his throat, and bejeweled armlets and bracelets encircled his arms. He was served by Gandharvas, the best of heavenly singers, and Apsaras, celestial dancers. Verily, he resembled a second Indra. Just see the amount of piety he accrued simply by dying on this fasting and leaving his body on this Ekādaśī. So much opulence that people would not even believe existed. But in higher realms, these things were common. What to speak of heaven? Even on earth, there used to be things like that. Rubies, gold, diamond, you name it, coral, silver, So, alright, so one day a Brahmana named Shomasharma, who lived in Mucukunda's kingdom, happened upon Śobhana's kingdom while traveling to various places of pilgrimage. The Brahmana saw Śobhana in all his resplendent glory and thought he might be the son-in-law of his own king Mucukunda. When Śobhana saw the Brahmana approaching, he immediately rose up from his seat and welcomed him. After Śobhana had paid his respectful obeisances, he asked the Brahmana about his well-being and about the health and welfare of his, Śobhana's father-in-law, his wife, and all the residents of the city. So mind you, this is in another body. So he saw Śobhana, and somehow or other, I guess maybe by Brahminical strength, he recognized that this was Śobhana, so the son-in-law of King Mucukunda. So the Brahmin says here, so Masharma then said, O king, all the residents and subjects are well in your father-in-law's kingdom, and Candrabhāgā and your other family members are also quite well. Peace and prosperity reign throughout the kingdom. But there is one thing, I'm quite astonished to find you here. Please tell me about yourself. Nobody has ever seen such a beautiful city as this. Kindly tell me how you obtained it. King Śobhana then began to tell his story. Because I observed the Ramā Ekādaśī, I was given this splendid city to rule over. But for all of its grandeur, it is only temporary. I beg you to do something to correct this deficiency. You see, this is only an ephemeral city, a place of this material world. How may I make its beauties and glories permanent? Kindly reveal this to me by your instructions. So it seems that the city that he had was actually temporary. It was not to remain. So I guess there are some places in the universe that are like this, that you get this. I'm not sure if he's talking about his pious activities are going to be exhausted. Maybe that's it, because when you get pious activity, you go to heaven. Once you have enjoyed enough, you come back to earth. Okay. The Brahmana then asked, why is this kingdom unstable and how will it become stable? Please fully explain this to me and I shall try to help you. So the Brahmana is asking. So Śobhana then answered, because I fasted on Ramā Ekādaśī without any faith, this kingdom is impermanent. Oh, very nice instruction here. Now hear how it can become permanent. Please return to Candrabhāgā, the beautiful daughter of King Mucukunda, and tell her what you have seen and understood about this place and about me. Surely, if you, a pure-hearted Brahmana, tell her this, my city will soon become permanent. Just see the importance of performing religious duties with faith. It's based on faith, basically. This is why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that any sacrifice which is done situated in knowledge is better than mere sacrifice of material possessions, because after all, the culmination of each sacrifice is to get transcendental knowledge. So this faith is the goal of all of this, to develop faith in God, faith in the Supreme Lord. That is the whole point. So if everything is based on faith, the spiritual advancement, Kanishtadikari, neophyte devotee, Madhyamadikari, intermediate, and Uttamadikari, the eternally perfected devotee, it's all a question of how much faith they have in the words of the scriptures, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, in this way. So it's important to see the deity with faith, do arti with faith, chant Hare Krishna with faith, eat prasadam with faith. Yes, this is the remnant of the Lord. So this must be, you see, so Ekadashi is so powerful that even though he did it without faith, he got this. But still temporary place, because no faith. Thus the Brahmana returned to his city and related the entire episode to Candrabhāgā, who was both surprised and overjoyed to hear this news of her husband. She said, "O Brahmana, is this a dream you have seen, or is it actually a factual thing?" Soma Sharma, the Brahmana, replied, "O princess, I have seen your late husband face to face in that wonderful kingdom, which resembles a realm of the denizens of heaven's playgrounds. But your former husband has asked me to relate to you that he says that his kingdom is unstable and could vanish into thin air at any moment. Therefore, he hopes you can find a way to make it permanent." There's actually a word called Gandharva Parva, I believe it's called, like the city in the sky, a city of the Gandharvas, which is just imaginary. So I guess maybe that saying comes from this, that cities that are there but that can disappear, Okay, Candrabhāgā then said, O sage among the Brahmanas, please take me to that place where my husband resides at once, for I greatly desire to see him again. Surely I shall make his kingdom permanent with the merit that I have acquired by fasting on every Ekādaśī throughout my life. Please reunite us at once. Again, it is said that one who reunites separated persons also obtains very great merit. All these are laws of piety enunciated in the Vedas, Reuniting lost persons, you get piety also. The humble Brahmana Somarsharma then led Candrabhāgā to Śobhana's effulgent kingdom. Before reaching it, however, they stopped at the foot of Mount Mandarachala, at the sacred ashram of Vāmadev. Upon hearing their story, Vāmadev chanted hymns from the Vedas and sprinkled holy water from his Samanya Argya upon Candrabhāgā. By the influence of that great Rishi's rites, the merit she had accrued by fasting for so many Ekādashis made her body transcendental. Ecstatic, her eyes beaming in wonder, Candrabhāgā continued her journey. Now here, Vāmadev, not Vamanadev. It's not the incarnation of the Lord, Upendra. It's Vāmadev, a great Rishi. I've never heard his name before. So by his mystic power, he transformed her, and by her pious merit of having fasted, he transformed her beautiful body into, he transformed her body into a beautiful, here it says transcendental body. I do not know if this is a wrong translation. Or transcendental actually means spiritual, So here, did she become a demigoddess, or did she get a spiritual body? Anyway, we shall see. When Śobhana saw his wife approaching him high on Mount Mandarachala, he was overwhelmed with joy and called out to her in great happiness and jubilation. After she arrived, he seated her on his left side, and she said to him, O dearest one, please listen as I tell you something that will benefit you greatly. Since I was 8 years old, I have fasted regularly and with full faith on every Ekādaśī. This confirms Srila Prabhupada's statements that he said that we can start fasting until 8 years, from 8 years old onwards. The words of the Acharya are always based on Sastra. If I transfer to you all the merit I have accumulated, your kingdom will surely become permanent, and its prosperity will grow and grow until the coming of the great inundation. Aha! What is the meaning of permanent here? Actually, that is not permanent, because it's still in the material world. Here she's speaking of the great inundation, which happens at the end of Brahma's one day. Brahma's one day lasts for 4.32 billion years. So at the end of that, I guess that kingdom will also, be destroyed. Because, mind you, they went there somehow on foot or what, but then she got the demigoddess body. I think this is becoming clear now. She could not go there, I think, maybe in her normal human being body, Lord Krishna continued, O Yudhishthira, in this way Candrabhāgā, who was beautifully decorated with the finest ornaments and had an exquisitely transcendental body, again, no, that is not properly translated. She had a beautiful celestial body, we can say. At last enjoyed peace and happiness with her husband. By the potency of Ramā Ekādaśī, Śobhana found his kingdom on the peaks of Mount Mandarachala, able to fulfill all his desires and bestow upon him everlasting happiness, like that achieved from the transcendental Kamadhenu cow. O greatest of kings, I have thus narrated to you the glories of Ramā Ekādaśī that falls in the dark fortnight of the month of Kartika. Anyone who observes sacred Ekādaśī during both the light and the dark fortnight of each month is undoubtedly freed from the reactions to the sin of killing a Brahmana. One should not differentiate between the Ekādashis of the light and dark parts of the month. As we have seen, both can award pleasure in this world and liberate even the most sinful and fallen souls. Just as black cows and white cows give equally good quality milk, so the Ekādashis of the dark fortnight and the light fortnight award the same high degree of merit, and eventually liberate one from the repeated cycle of birth and death. Anyone who simply hears this narration of the glories of the sacred day of Ramā Ekādaśī is freed from all kinds of sin and attains the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. Thus ends the Vrajavasi narration for the glories of the sacred Kartika Krishna Ekādaśī, or Ramā Ekādaśī, from the Brahmā-vaivarta Purāṇa. So here we have it. Beautiful story. We learned a lot. So it is still unclear if this King Mucukunda was the same that is spoken of in the Krishna book, but there's related things, just like he was friend with many demigods, so that could point toward that direction, but I guess we won't be sure. Anyway, so I guess the important point we see here is faith. Faith in performing Ekādaśī, faith in performing devotional service. And again, I will repeat it, the goal of Ekādaśī is not to get all this material opulence, all this heavenly kingdom and all. Devotees should be disgusted for this. They should not try to seek such pleasure. In fact, those who are in heaven, the demigods, they are so simply engaged in sense gratification mainly. Of course, they're all devotees, but because there the sense objects are so attractive, how can one advance spiritually there? So, concerning this, we can read this here. Okay. Concerning happiness in heaven, Okay, so the demigods continued. This is Śrīmad Bhagavatam 5:19-22. The demigods continued, after performing the very difficult tasks of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, undergoing austerities, observing vows, and giving charity. We have achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement? Here we are certainly very engaged in material sense gratification, and therefore we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. That's it. You cannot. How can you remember the Lord? Even here, let's say you would get a really beautiful wife and you get, millions of dollars, and how are you gonna? Unless you're a very, very advanced devotee, you will fall down. That's for sure. Because in heaven they have sex life. There they don't incur sin. There their sex is not polluting them. It is actually simply burning the pious activity that they have awarded. This we learn from the story of Arjuna who went to heaven, and there was one of the great women in his dynasty who looked at him lustfully, and she approached him. This is the whole incident and how he got cursed to be a eunuch for 1 year, lose his manliness. So, Arjuna said, no, I was looking at you, dear mother, because I know who you are. You are one of the great queen in our dynasty, and I was looking at you as a mother. So please do not come to me with such a mood. And the heavenly maiden said, don't worry, this kind of morality, this is human morality, Here in heaven, we are not bound by this. We don't feel shame. So in other words, they're not bound by the laws of so-called morality that we have here on earth. They can enjoy sex life with pretty much everyone there, And they don't incur sin for this. It's just burning their piety, and then they come back down. So if you have this advantage, let me just enjoy sex life, I don't incur sin, and the women are so beautiful, and men are shaped like demigod, how you can remember the lotus feet of the Lord? Therefore, a devotee should not want to go there. This is death, actually. To go to heaven. That's why in the Nectar of Instruction, in the Ishopanishad, there's a verse that those who worship demigod enters the darkest region. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that for a pure devotee, even heaven is the darkest region. Because anywhere where there is sense gratification and forgetfulness of the Lord is the darkest region. So we should not be very much anxious to do this. So Ekādaśī should be to advance spiritually, get the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, reduce the fat in the body, reduce the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and increasing the chanting. In this way, advancing spiritually. That's the whole point. So these Ekādaśī stories are generally approached more with a bit of a karma kanda tastes, and this is how Vedic scriptures work, is that they give this enticement, that here, if you follow in Ekādaśī, you'll get this, and you'll get that, and you'll get this, You'll get so many nice things. So someone is like, oh great, I'm going to go to heaven if I do this. That's wonderful. But what is it the actually goal of this? Here, Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 21, 23. Those statements of scripture promising fruitive rewards do not prescribe the ultimate good for men, but are merely enticements for executing beneficial religious duties, like promises of candy spoken to induce a child to take beneficial medicine. So, next verse, 11, 21, 26. Persons with perverted intelligence do not understand this actual purpose of Vedic knowledge and instead propagate as the highest Vedic truth the flowery statements of the Vedas that promise material rewards. Those in actual knowledge of the Vedas never speak in that way. So come, do Ekadashi, you'll have a beautiful kingdom, and so much gold and everything. But at the same time, you will approach Lord Vishnu. That's the thing, So that is the beneficial medicine. And the promise of a candy is this ephemeral heavenly planet, So that's it. We hope you have enjoyed the story as much as I did. Each Ekadashi has got very beautiful stories. So with faith, we should perform Ekadashi. So I'm going to be uploading this now, which is the evening of November 1st, 2021. This is Ramā Ekādaśī. Normally I upload a day before so that people can hear and get some motivation to follow the next day. But it was just so hectic for me. There was too much to do, so I'm sorry. But we hope that you have enjoyed this narration. So thank you very much. Ramā Ekādaśī ki jai, Śrila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanande. Hare Krishna.